Ambassador Dae-hyun Kim walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers. His black diplomatic uniform felt heavy on his shoulders. Behind him, Colonel Bo-ra Shin and Dr. Woo-jin Park followed in silence. Their footsteps echoed in the enormous room. The chamber was bigger than any building on Earth. The ceiling stretched up so high that clouds formed near the top. Hundreds of seats arranged in circles held representatives from across the galaxy. Each species looked different. Some had scales, others had fur, and many had features that humans could not even understand. Dae-hyun had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years. He had seen many meetings, but never one like this. The air felt thick with tension. Every alien in the room was staring at the 3 humans walking to their assigned seats. "They look angry," whispered Dr. Park. He was Earth's top scientist and usually remained calm in any situation. Today, his hands were shaking slightly. "They should be," replied Colonel Shin quietly. "We took 3 star systems in 6 months. That's faster than any species in galactic history." The humans reached their seats in the center of the chamber. All around them, alien representatives whispered in languages that sounded like music, grinding metal or rushing water. Universal translators turned their words into something humans could understand, but the meaning was clear in any language. The galaxy was not happy with humanity. Supreme Counselor Vexathari stood up from the highest seat in the chamber. She belonged to the Dominion, the most powerful species in the galaxy. Her body looked like it was made of living crystal. Light moved through her transparent skin in patterns that showed her emotions. Right now, those patterns looked like storm clouds. "We call this emergency session to order," Vexathari announced. Her voice was like bells ringing. "The matter before us today concerns the rapid and aggressive expansion of the human species." Dae-hyun felt every eye in the chamber focus on him. He had prepared for this moment, but nothing could have made it feel normal. Earth's entire future in space depended on the next few minutes. General Thokmar of the Hegemony rose from his seat. He was twice as tall as any human, with 4 massive arms and skin that looked like armor. His species had conquered dozens of worlds over thousands of years. They knew about war better than anyone. "The humans have violated every principle of peaceful expansion," Thokmar said. His voice was deep and loud. "In less than 50 years since their first contact with galactic civilization, they have claimed more territory than species that have existed for millennia." A creature that looked like a walking tree made sounds that the translator turned into words. "The humans terraform planets too quickly. They change worlds to suit themselves instead of adapting to existing conditions. This is not the galactic way." More voices joined in. Species after species stood up to complain about humanity. They said humans bred too fast. They said humans were too aggressive. They said humans asked too many questions and followed too few rules. Dr. Park leaned over to whisper to Dae-hyun, "63 species have signed the petition against us. That's more than half the council." Dae-hyun nodded. He had expected this. Humanity's expansion had been remarkable, but it had also been threatening to established powers. When humans arrived in the galaxy, they had been given a few small worlds and systems nobody else wanted. Those worlds were supposed to keep humanity busy for centuries. Instead, humans had turned barren rocks into garden worlds in decades. They had developed new technologies that made space travel faster and cheaper. Most importantly, they had never asked permission before settling new worlds. They had simply gone and done it. "The human colony ships ignore established territorial boundaries," complained another species. "They settle in systems that have been empty for good reasons." "Empty, because you were afraid to try," Colonel Shin muttered under her breath. Vexathari raised one crystal arm for silence. The chamber became quiet instantly. When the leader of the Dominion spoke, every species listened. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision," she announced. "Humanity has 36 standard hours to withdraw all military assets from the Kepler 442 system. Your expansion ends there." The words hit Dae-hyun like a physical blow. Kepler 442 was humanity's newest and most important colony system. 3 planets in that system now held 50 million human settlers. They had cities, farms, schools, and families. They had built entire lives in that system. Kepler 442 is legally settled under galactic colonization law, Daehyun said, standing up. Our people have lived there for 12 years. You cannot simply order them to leave. We can and we do, replied General Takmar. The combined fleet is already assembling. 18 species have contributed their finest warships. Over 3,000 vessels now wait at the edge of your system. The number made Dr. Park's eyes go wide. Earth's entire space fleet had fewer than 200 ships. Even if every human vessel in the galaxy joined the fight, they would be outnumbered 15 to 1. What you are demanding is impossible, Daehyun said. 50 million people cannot be moved in 36 hours. Even if we had enough ships, which we do not, many of those people were born in Kepler 442. It is their home. Then they will learn to find new homes, said a representative from the Federation, or they will face the consequences of defying the Council's will. The threat was clear. If humanity did not abandon Kepler 442, the galaxy's most powerful species would destroy every human presence in the system. Men, women, and children would die because their crime was living on worlds their parents had built from nothing. And if we refuse your ultimatum? Daehyun asked. His voice stayed steady, but inside he felt cold fear growing. Vexithari's crystal body flashed with red light. Then the combined fleet will remove you by force. Your species will learn that there are consequences for defying the natural order of galactic civilization. The natural order, repeated Daehyun slowly. You mean the order where powerful species decide the fate of weaker ones? Precisely, said General Takmar. It has kept peace in the galaxy for 10,000 years. Colonel Shin shifted in her seat. Her hand moved toward the weapon at her side, but Daehyun caught her eye and shook his head slightly. Violence here would only make things worse. We need time to consider your demand, Daehyun said diplomatically. You have 36 hours, Vexithari replied. When that time expires, you will withdraw or face the consequences. The session ended, with those words hanging in the air like smoke from a fire. As the alien representatives filed out of the chamber, many looked at the humans with expressions that might have been pity. Others looked pleased that the upstart species was finally being put in its place. Daehyun, Colonel Shin, and Dr. Park walked back through the massive doors in silence. Only when they reached their private transport did anyone speak. 50 million people, Dr. Park said quietly. How do we tell 50 million people to abandon everything they have built? We don't, said Colonel Shin. Her voice was hard as steel. Like hell, we're standing down. Daehyun looked out at the stars visible through the transport's windows. Somewhere among those points of light was Earth. Somewhere else was Kepler 442, where human children were probably playing in parks their grandparents had planted. Send a message to Earth Command, he said finally. Tell them we have 35 hours to decide the future of our species. The transport headed toward the human embassy, carrying 3 people who knew they were about to make the most important decision in human history. The human command ship Indomitable drifted in the darkness of space near Kepler 442. Inside the ship's war room, Fleet Admiral Hyun-Soo Lee studied the tactical displays with growing concern. The screens showed more enemy ships arriving every hour. Current count is 3,400 alien vessels, reported Captain Ji-won Kang. She commanded the destroyer Seoul's Pride and had served in Admiral Lee's fleet for 8 years. Intelligence says more are still coming. Admiral Lee rubbed his tired eyes. He had been awake for 20 hours since receiving Ambassador Kim's message from the Galactic Council. The ultimatum was clear. Humanity had to abandon Kepler 442 or face destruction. What about our forces? Asked Colonel Shin. She had returned from the council meeting on the fastest transport available. 62 ships total, answered Captain Kang. That includes everything from destroyers down to patrol boats. The aliens outnumber us 50 to 1. Dr. Park sat at a nearby console, running calculations on his portable computer. The enemy fleet includes the most advanced warships in the galaxy. Dominion crystal ships that can bend light around them. Hegemony battle cruisers with armor thicker than our entire hulls. Federation vessels with weapons that can destroy planets. And what do we have? Colonel Shin asked. Determination, Admiral, Lee said simply. The room fell quiet. Everyone knew that determination alone would not stop 3,000 alien warships, but they also knew that humanity had survived impossible odds before. Sir, incoming transmission from New Busan, reported Communications Officer Min Ji-yoon. Governor Choi wants to speak with you. Put her through, Admiral Lee ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing Governor So-young Choi standing in what looked like the planet's emergency command center. Behind her, civilian officials worked frantically at their stations. Admiral, I need to know our status, Governor Choi said without greeting. The evacuation order from Earth Command arrived an hour ago. My people are asking questions I cannot answer. Admiral Lee took a deep breath. Earth Command had ordered a full evacuation of Kepler 442 after receiving the ultimatum. They wanted to save as many lives as possible, even if it meant abandoning the colonies. Governor, the alien fleet is larger than we expected. Our chances of successful defense are— I don't care about chances, Governor Choi interrupted. I care about my people. 50 million humans live in this system. They have homes here. They have lives here. Many were born here. This is not just a colony to them. This is home. Admiral Lee understood. He had visited New Busan many times. The planet was beautiful, with cities built around natural harbors and farms that stretched across fertile valleys. Children played in parks where their grandparents had planted the first trees. Governor, Earth Command believes evacuation is our only option, he said carefully. Earth Command is not here, Governor Choi replied sharply. Earth Command did not spend 12 years building these worlds from nothing. My people worked in mines and factories to pay for every building, every road, every tree we planted. She paused and looked directly into the camera. Admiral, I received over 2 million messages in the past hour. Citizens from every planet in the system. They all say the same thing. They will not leave. Admiral Lee felt something heavy settle in his chest. Governor, the alien fleet can destroy this entire system. Your people will die if they stay. Maybe, Governor Choi said, but they will die as free humans on their own worlds. Earth Command can order evacuation all they want. My people choose to stay and fight. The transmission ended, leaving the war room in silence. Admiral Lee stared at the blank screen, thinking about the choice before him. He could follow Earth Command's orders and retreat. Most of his ships would survive to fight another day. Or he could stay and face impossible odds, alongside 50 million civilians who refused to abandon their homes. Sir? Captain Kang asked quietly. Admiral Lee turned to face his officers. These men and women had followed him through 3 previous conflicts. They had never questioned his orders, even when those orders meant flying into danger. What do you think? He asked them. Colonel Shin spoke first. Earth Command is thinking about the survival of our species. They want to preserve our fleet for future battles. But, Admiral Lee prompted, but those 50 million people are part of our species too. If we abandon them now, what message does that send to other colonies? What message does it send to our enemies? Dr. Park looked up from his computer. Admiral, I have been analyzing our technological advantages. The aliens have superior numbers and firepower, but they have weaknesses we can exploit. Explain, Admiral Lee ordered. Their fleets are designed for overwhelming shows of force against inferior opponents. They expect enemies to surrender after seeing their numbers. They have no experience fighting desperate opponents who refuse to give up. Dr. Park activated his holographic displays. Images showed human technology that remained classified from alien observers. Our neural interface. Systems let pilots control multiple ships simultaneously. Our quantum computing networks can coordinate complex tactics in real time. Our adaptive AI protocols learn from enemy patterns during battle. What are you suggesting? Admiral Lee asked. I am suggesting that we have never fought a battle where our survival depended on victory. The aliens have never fought an enemy that preferred death to defeat. They do not know what humans are capable of when we have no choice but to win. Captain Kang studied the tactical displays. Even with advantages, 62 ships against 3,000 is suicide. Maybe, Colonel Shin said, "but it is honorable suicide, and sometimes honor matters more than survival." Admiral Lee walked to the window and looked out at the stars. In the distance, he could see the lights of human ships preparing for battle. Smaller vessels were moving into position around the 3 inhabited planets. Cargo haulers and passenger transports were being fitted with whatever weapons could be found. "Sir, Earth Command is requesting status update," Officer Yoon reported. Admiral Lee thought about his family on Earth. His wife and 2 children would be safer if he retreated. His fleet would be stronger for future battles. The logical choice was clear. But logic had never built colonies on barren worlds. Logic had never turned empty space into homes for 50 million people. Logic had never inspired humans to reach for the stars. "Send a message to Earth Command," Admiral Lee said finally. "Tell them we are implementing Defiance Protocol." The room erupted in surprised voices. Defiance Protocol was theoretical. It had never been used in actual combat. "Sir, Defiance Protocol has no official authorization," Captain Kang warned. "Then we will write the authorization in blood and starlight," Admiral Lee replied. "Send the message to every human world. Tell them Kepler 442 stands and fights." Ikao turned back to his officers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have 34 hours to prove that humans do not surrender. Not to bullies, not to impossible odds. Not ever." The war room filled with activity as officers began preparing for the most important battle in human history. Captain Junho Nam checked his fighter systems one final time. The small craft called Taguk hummed around him like a living thing. Through his neural interface, he could feel the ship's engines, weapons, and shields as if they were parts of his own body. "All pilots, this is Falcon Leader," he spoke into his communication system. "Enemy fleet is moving into attack formation. Time to show them what humans can do." Around him, 49 other human fighters prepared for launch. They were tiny compared to the alien dreadnoughts approaching the system. Each enemy ship was the size of a small city. The human fighters looked like insects next to giants. Captain Nam had flown combat missions for 12 years, but never against odds like these. The alien combined fleet stretched across space like a metal ocean. Ships from 18 different species moved in perfect formation, their weapons charging with energy that made the stars look dim. "Falcon Squadron, launch when ready," came Admiral Lee's voice from the command ship, Indomitable. Captain Nam pushed his throttle forward and shot out of the launch bay. Behind him, his squadron followed in tight formation. The sight that greeted them in open space would have made lesser pilots turn around and flee. 3,400 alien warships filled the darkness ahead. Crystal ships of the Dominion bent light around them, making them shimmer like mirages. Hegemony battle cruisers bristled with weapons that could crack moons. Federation vessels hummed with energy shields that had never been broken. "Command, this is Falcon Leader," Captain Nam reported. "Visual contact with enemy fleet. They are very big." "Copy that, Falcon Leader," Admiral Lee responded. "Remember, your training. Size does not matter if you cannot hit your target." Captain Nam smiled grimly. Human fighter tactics had been developed fighting pirates and raiders, not galactic superpowers, but the principles remained the same. Stay fast, stay unpredictable, and hit where the enemy least expects. "All fighters, initiate swarm protocols," he ordered. Immediately, the 50 human fighters began moving in ways that confused alien observers. Their neural interfaces linked together, creating a collective intelligence that acted like a single organism with many parts. The fighters wove between each other in patterns too complex for any single pilot to control. The alien fleet opened fire first. Beams of energy that could destroy asteroids lanced through space where the human fighters had been moments before. But the humans were no longer flying as individual ships. They moved like a school of fish, each craft instantly responding to threats the others detected. Captain Nam rolled his fighter under a beam that would have vaporized him, while simultaneously firing missiles at a Dominion cruiser's weapon arrays. Around him, his squadron mates performed similar maneuvers, their actions coordinated by AI systems the aliens had never encountered. "Direct hit on enemy target 7, reported Lieutenant Yeon Ho Kim. "Their starboard weapons are offline." "Confirmed," Kill on target 12, added Lieutenant Sujin Lee. Hegemony destroyer is venting atmosphere. Captain Nam felt a moment of satisfaction, but it was short-lived. For every alien ship they damaged, 10 more moved to take its place. The combined fleet was so large that destroying 100 ships would barely be noticed. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Lee watched the tactical displays with growing concern. His fighters were performing better than anyone had dared hope, but mathematics was mathematics. They could not win by conventional tactics. "Sir, the alien flagship is hailing us," reported Communications Officer Yoon. "Put them through, Admiral," Lee ordered. Supreme Counselor Vexithari appeared on the main screen. Her crystal body flickered with patterns that suggested anger and confusion. "Admiral Lee," she said, "your pilots fight with skill, but you cannot win this battle. Surrender now and your people will be relocated to other worlds. Continue fighting and they will die for nothing." Admiral Lee looked at the tactical display showing his fighters dancing between enemy fire like leaves in a hurricane. They were outnumbered 60-1, but they had not lost a single ship yet. "Counselor, with respect, you do not understand humans very well," he replied. "I understand enough," Vexithari said. "No species fights impossible battles. Logic demands surrender when defeat is certain." "Logic," Admiral Lee repeated. "Let me tell you about human logic. We did not come to the stars to find easy lives. We came because we dreamed of something better than what we had." He gestured toward the display showing the 3 human colonies. Those 50 million people built homes from nothing. They turned dead rocks into living worlds. They did not ask permission. They did not wait for someone to give them what they wanted. They took it. Vexithari's crystal body flashed with red light. And now they will lose it all because of their pride. "Maybe," Admiral Lee agreed, "but they will lose it as free beings who chose their own fate. We did not come this far to only come this far." The transmission ended with those words. Captain Nam heard them through his communication system and felt something fierce burn in his chest. Around him, his squadron was still fighting impossible odds, but they were fighting as humans. "All fighters, new target assignments," he announced. "We are going after their command ships." "Sir, that is suicide," protested Lieutenant Kim. "Maybe," Captain Nam replied, echoing Admiral Lee's words. "But let's make it expensive suicide." The human fighters suddenly changed direction, diving toward the heart of the alien fleet where the largest command vessels waited. Energy beams filled the space around them, but they twisted and rolled through the fire like ghosts. Captain Nam's targeting system locked onto the bridge of a hegemony super dreadnought. The ship was 10,000 times larger than his fighter, but its weapons could not track something so small moving so fast. He fired every missile his craft carried, watching them streak toward their target. Behind him, 49 other fighters did the same, their attacks coordinated by the swarm intelligence that linked their minds. The explosions lit up space like new stars. When the light faded, the super dreadnought was drifting helplessly, its command center destroyed. "That was for telling us to surrender," Captain Nam whispered. The alien fleet recoiled from the attack like a living thing in pain. For the first time in the battle, their perfect formations wavered. Ships moved out of position as their commanders tried to protect themselves from enemies too small to see clearly on their sensors. "All human vessels, this is Admiral Lee," came the voice from the command ship. "The enemy is confused and angry. Now we show them why you never corner a human who has nothing left to lose." Across the Kepler 442 system, every human ship began moving at once. Destroyers and cruisers that had been hiding behind asteroids suddenly appeared and opened fire. Cargo haulers fitted with mining lasers joined the battle. Even civilian transports loaded with improvised weapons launched themselves at the enemy. The Battle of Kepler 442 had truly begun, and humanity was no longer just defending. They were attacking with the fury of a species that refused to kneel. 3 hours into the Battle of Kepler 442, the impossible was happening. The mighty combined fleet of 18 alien species found itself struggling against an enemy 1/50th their size. Dr. Woo Jin Park worked frantically at his station aboard, the research vessel Sejong. Around him, computers analyzed alien communication patterns while his team searched for any advantage they could find. "Doctor," I found something, called out Lieutenant Yanwu Han from the cyber warfare section. The alien fleets are using quantum entanglement for instant communication across their formation. Dr. Park looked up from his work. Can we tap into their network? Better than that, Lieutenant Han replied with a grin. Their security is designed to keep out enemies who think like them. They never considered opponents who think like humans. Within minutes, Lieutenant Han's team had accomplished something that military historians would later call impossible. They broke into the alien command network that had coordinated galactic fleets for thousands of years. We have access to their tactical computers, Han reported. I can see their battle plans, their ship positions, even their commander's personal messages. Dr. Park felt his heart racing. What are they saying? They are confused and frightened. Han answered. Listen to this transmission from the Hegemony flagship. The speakers crackled with translated alien voices. General Thakmar was speaking to his sub-commanders, and he sounded nothing like the confident warrior who had threatened humanity in the council chambers. These humans fight like mad creatures, his voice said. They attack ships 10 times their size without hesitation. They coordinate their movements in ways our computers cannot predict. How do we fight enemies who seem to welcome death? Another voice responded, sounding equally disturbed. Sir, we have lost 47 ships in 3 hours. Our formations are breaking down because captains are trying to avoid these small human craft. Dr. Park and Lieutenant Han exchanged looks. The alien fleet was not just losing ships, it was losing confidence. Can we disrupt their communications? Dr. Park asked. Already working on it, Han replied. Give me 10 more minutes and I can turn their own network against them. Meanwhile, Captain Jiwan Kang was proving that human determination could overcome any technological disadvantage. Her destroyer Soul's Pride had already destroyed 6 alien vessels, using tactics that no military academy had ever taught. Target the Dominion cruiser at bearing 27 Mark IV, she ordered her weapons officer. Load everything we have left. Captain, that ship's shields are still at full strength, the officer warned. Our weapons cannot penetrate them. Then, we will not try to penetrate them, Captain Kang replied calmly. We will go around them. She turned to her helmsman. Set collision course with the target. Maximum speed. The bridge fell silent. Every officer understood what their captain was ordering. The Soul's Pride would ram the alien cruiser at full speed, using the ship itself as a weapon. Captain, the helmsman said quietly, the escape pods will launch at the last moment, Captain Kang finished. But not before we show these aliens what humans do when they threaten our homes. The Soul's Pride accelerated toward the massive Dominion vessel. The alien ship tried to turn away, but human destroyers were built for speed and maneuverability. The distance closed rapidly. All hands, abandon ship, Captain Kang announced over the ship's communication system. It has been an honor serving with you all. Escape pods launched from the destroyer as it approached the alien cruiser. The Dominion ship fired desperately, but its massive weapons could not track something so close and moving so fast. The collision lit up space like a miniature sun. The Soul's Pride, reinforced for asteroid mining operations, punched through the alien ship's shields and hull like a bullet through paper. The Dominion cruiser broke apart in a chain of explosions that could be seen from the planets below. Captain Kang's sacrifice is confirmed, reported Admiral Lee from the Indomitable. The enemy flagship is destroyed. But the real turning point came from an unexpected source. Governor So Young Choi had not been idle while the military fought, above her worlds. She had been organizing something that no alien commander could have imagined. This is Governor Choi to all vessels. Her voice suddenly filled every communication channel in the system. Civilian fleet is launching now. From the 3 human planets, hundreds of ships began rising into space. These were not warships. They were cargo haulers, passenger transports, mining vessels, and personal shuttles. Ships that carried families to new worlds and brought supplies to growing colonies. Governor, you need to stay out of the battle zone, Admiral Lee transmitted, urgently. These are civilian vessels. Admiral, with respect, there are no civilians in this fight, Governor Choi replied. These are our homes. These are our children's futures. Every human in this system has a stake in this battle. The civilian ships were not built for combat, but human ingenuity had found ways to make them dangerous. Cargo haulers mounted with mining lasers powerful enough to cut through asteroids. Passenger liners converted into missile platforms using their cargo bays. Even small shuttles carried improvised explosives toward enemy targets. The sight of human civilians charging into battle against impossible odds shattered something fundamental in the alien psyche. The combined fleet had fought rebellions before. They had crushed military uprisings and defeated desperate governments. But they had never faced an entire population that preferred death to surrender. "This is not possible," transmitted Supreme, Counselor Vexthari from her flagship. "Civilian populations do not engage in warfare. It violates every principle of galactic civilization." "Maybe that is the problem with galactic civilization," Governor Choi replied. "You forgot that sometimes freedom is worth fighting for." Lieutenant Han chose that moment to spring his cyber warfare trap. Across the alien fleet, communication networks began turning against their users. Ships received false orders. Targeting. Computers locked onto friendly vessels. Navigation systems guided ships into collision courses with their own allies. "What is happening?" demanded General Thokmar as his fleet began destroying itself. "The humans have invaded our networks," his technical officer reported in panic. "They are using our own systems against us." For the first time in galactic history, the mighty combined fleet found itself retreating from a battle. Ships that had conquered worlds began falling back in disorder. Their perfect formations collapsed as individual commanders tried to save themselves. Captain Nam, still fighting, in his battered fighter, watched the alien retreat with amazement. "Command, are they actually running away?" "Confirmed, Falcon Leader," Admiral Lee replied. "The enemy fleet is withdrawing to the outer system." But the victory was not complete. The alien fleet was damaged and confused, but still enormous. They would regroup and attack again unless humanity found a way to end this fight permanently. "All human vessels, this is Admiral Lee." His voice rang across the communication channels. "Phase 1 is complete. The enemy knows we will not surrender. Now we show them the price of threatening human worlds." The Battle of Kepler 442 was far from over, but for the first time since the ultimatum, humanity had hope. The alien combined fleet regrouped at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, but they were no longer the confident force that had arrived to crush human expansion. Admiral Lee watched their formations through long-range sensors and saw the signs of an army that had been shaken to its core. "Enemy fleet has lost over 400 vessels," reported Captain Kang's replacement, Commander Jin-Soo Park. "That represents 12% of their original force." Admiral Lee nodded grimly. The human losses had been severe too. They had started with 62 ships and now had 31 still capable of fighting. But mathematics was no longer the only factor in this battle. "Sir, we are receiving multiple surrender requests from alien vessels," Communications Officer Yoon announced with surprise. "Individual ship captains are asking to withdraw from the combat zone." This was unprecedented. In 10,000 years of galactic history, no multi-species fleet had ever experienced mass defections during battle. The sight of human civilians rushing to defend their homes had broken something in the alien commander's understanding of warfare. Captain Junho Nam's fighter squadron, now reduced to 23 operational craft, prepared for what they all knew would be the final phase of the battle. His ship Taeguk bore scorch marks from near misses, and his life support systems were running on backup power. "Falcon Leader to all fighters," he transmitted. "Intelligence reports the enemy is preparing for one final assault. They want to end this quickly before more of their ships desert." Through his neural interface, Captain Nam could feel the determination of his fellow pilots. They were exhausted, running low on ammunition, and facing an enemy that still outnumbered them 20-1, but none of them considered retreat. "This is it," he told his squadron. "Everything we have fought for comes down to the next hour." Aboard the research vessel Sejong, Dr. Park made a discovery that would change the course of the battle. His analysis of captured alien technology had revealed a critical weakness in their command structure. "Admiral, I found something important," he transmitted to the Indomitable. The alien fleet uses a hierarchical command system with all orders flowing from flagship computers. If we can disable their command vessels, the entire fleet will be paralyzed. How many command ships? Admiral Lee asked. 7 primary command. Vessels control the entire combined fleet. Take out those 7 ships and 3,000 remaining vessels will be unable to coordinate their attacks. Admiral Lee studied the tactical display. The alien command ships were the largest and most heavily defended vessels in the enemy fleet. Attacking them directly would be suicide for any conventional force. But humans had stopped fighting conventional battles hours ago. All vessels, this is Admiral Lee. New primary targets are the enemy command ships. I know they look impossible to destroy, but so did this entire battle 6 hours ago. The human fleet began its final assault with desperate courage that amazed even themselves. Every remaining ship, from the largest cruiser to the smallest shuttle, focused on the 7 alien command vessels. Captain Nam led his fighters in a dive toward the Hegemony flagship, where General Thokmar commanded the combined fleet. The massive vessel bristled with defensive weapons, but the human fighters moved through the fire like ghosts. Falcon 3 and 4 target their communication arrays, Nam ordered. Falcon 7 through 10 go for their engine systems, everyone else follow me to their bridge. The attack was precisely coordinated through their neural interfaces. While some fighters distracted the ship's defenses, others struck at critical systems. The alien vessel was too large to destroy quickly, but humans did not need to destroy it. They only needed to disable it. Nam's fighters screamed past the flagships, bridge firing every weapon he had left. Behind him, his wingmates did the same. The accumulated damage from dozens of small attacks finally overwhelmed the ship's defenses. Hegemony flagship is going dark, reported his sensor operator. Their command systems are offline. Similar scenes played out across the battle zone as human forces systematically targeted each alien command vessel. The attacks were costly. Human ships died by the dozen as they threw themselves against heavily defended targets. But the strategy worked. One by one, the alien command ships fell silent. Without their coordinating computers, the combined fleet began to fall apart. Individual ships found themselves unable to receive orders or coordinate with their allies. Supreme Counselor Vexthari, commanding from her crystal flagship, watched her mighty fleet dissolve into chaos. Species that had fought together for millennia suddenly could not communicate with each other. Ships began drifting without navigation, or firing at targets their computers could no longer identify as friendly. "This is impossible," she transmitted on all frequencies. "How can so few defeat so many?" Governor Choi's voice answered from the planet below. "Because you never understood what you were fighting. You thought you were crushing a military force, but you were attacking people defending their homes." The final blow came from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Han, still deep in the alien communication networks, activated a program he had been working on throughout the battle. "Dr. Park, I can give you control of their entire fleet," he announced. "What do you mean?" Dr. Park asked in amazement. "I mean I can make their ships obey our commands instead of theirs. Watch this." Across the alien fleet, ships began turning their weapons on each other. Dominion vessels fired on hegemony cruisers. Federation destroyers targeted their own allies. The combined fleet that had come to destroy humanity began destroying itself. "Stop this madness," Vexthari transmitted desperately. "We surrender. The combined fleet surrenders." The words echoed across every communication channel in the system. For the first time in recorded galactic history, a multi-species armada had been defeated by an enemy they outnumbered 50 to 1. Admiral Lee felt the weight of history as he responded. "Counselor, your surrender is accepted. Order all vessels to power down weapons and prepare to withdraw from this system." The Battle of Kepler 442 was over, but its consequences were just beginning. General Thokmar's final transmission came from his disabled flagship. Despite his defeat, his voice carried something that might have been respect. "You fight like demons, humans, but demons do not build civilizations." "No," Admiral Lee replied, looking out at the 3 human worlds where 50 million people were celebrating their survival. "But they sure as hell defend them." As the alien fleet began its retreat, carrying news of their impossible defeat back to the galaxy. The humans of Kepler 442 had proven something important. They had shown that determination, courage, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for freedom could overcome any odds. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. Lieutenant Han shut down his cyber warfare programs and leaned back in his chair. "Doctor, do you think they will be back?" Dr. Park smiled as he watched the alien ships limping away. "Maybe. But if they do come back, they will come as equals asking for negotiation. They will never again come as masters demanding surrender." The age of human expansion had truly begun. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442, Ambassador Dae-hyun Kim walked through the same massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers. But everything had changed. Empty seats marked where 12 species had withdrawn from the Council rather than faced the new reality. The combined fleet existed only in history books, its ships either destroyed or returned to their home worlds in disgrace. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted permanently. Behind Ambassador Kim walked a delegation that would have been impossible before the battle. Governor So-young Choi represented the civilian colonies that had proven their courage under fire. Admiral Hyun-Soo Lee wore the uniform of humanity's expanded fleet, now respected throughout the galaxy. Dr. Park carried data tablets containing technological advances that had made the human victory possible. But the most significant change was not in the human delegation. It was in the representatives from other species who now stood with them. The Althari, a peaceful species that had been oppressed by the Dominion for centuries, had broken free during the chaos following humanity's victory. The Corvani miners, who had supplied raw materials to the hegemony under forced contracts, had declared independence. 12 other species had followed similar paths. "The Council recognizes the human delegation," announced Supreme Counselor Vexithari. Her crystal form was dimmer than before, reflecting the reduced power of the Dominion after their defeat. Ambassador Kim stepped forward to the speaking platform. The chamber was less than half full, but those who remained watched with careful attention. Everyone knew that this session would determine the future structure of galactic civilization. "Counselors, we come before you today not seeking revenge for the attempted destruction of our colonies," Kim began. "We come seeking something better than the cycle of domination and submission that has governed this galaxy for 10,000 years." Murmurs filled the chamber. The humans were supposed to be demanding territorial concessions or reparations for the attack on Kepler 442. No one expected them to propose fundamental changes to galactic society. "The old system was built on a simple principle," Kim continued. "Might makes right. Powerful species controlled weaker ones. Military strength determined political influence. Fear maintained order." He gestured toward the empty seats in the chamber. "That system has failed. It failed when 18 species could not defeat one, because they forgot that true strength comes from the willingness to sacrifice everything for what you believe in." General Thokmar, his 4 arms now bound in the simple robes of a political exile, spoke from the hegemony section. "What do you propose instead, human?" Kim activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. The image showed a new organizational structure unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. "The Galactic Union," Kim announced. "A system where every species has an equal voice regardless of their military power or territorial holdings. Where decisions are made by consensus, not conquest. Where the goal is cooperation, not domination." The chamber erupted in confused voices. Species that had ruled through military might for millennia could not comprehend a system based on equality. "This is madness," declared a Dominion representative. "How do you maintain order without the threat of force?" Governor Choi stepped forward to answer. "The same way we maintained order in Kepler 442, through shared commitment to something greater than ourselves. When every being has a stake in the system, every being will defend it." Dr. Park added his own perspective. "Our analysis shows that the old system was incredibly inefficient. Billions of beings spent their lives producing weapons instead of advancing science or improving living conditions. Imagine what the galaxy could accomplish if that energy was directed toward creation instead of destruction." A representative from the Althari, speaking in the council for the first time in their species' history, asked the question many were thinking. What if some species refuse to join this union? What if they prefer the old ways? Admiral Lee answered with quiet confidence. Then they will learn what every bully in human history has learned. Eventually, someone stands up to them. And now, that someone includes not just humanity, but every species that has chosen freedom over fear. The debate continued for hours. Species argued about representation, voting procedures, territorial disputes, and military organization. But slowly, a consensus emerged. The old galactic order was dead. The question was not whether change would come, but what form it would take. Vexithari, as the senior remaining counselor, called for the formal vote. The proposal before us is the dissolution of the Galactic Council and the formation of a galactic union based on species equality and cooperative governance. All in favor? The chamber fell silent as representatives considered the most important decision in galactic history. One by one, hands, tentacles, and appendages rose in support. Even some former enemies of humanity voted yes, recognizing that the old system had brought them nothing but endless conflict. The measure passes by a vote of 47 to 12, Vexithari announced. Her crystal form flickered with patterns. That might have been relief. The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved. Long live the Galactic Union. The cheers that filled the chamber came from species that had been silent for centuries. For the first time, every being in the galaxy would have a voice in their own governance. But Ambassador Kim was not finished. There is one more matter to address, he said as the celebration quieted. The Union Charter must include protections for individual colony worlds and the beings who call them home. He looked directly at the remaining Dominion and Hegemony representatives. No species will ever again be told to abandon their homes, because others find their presence inconvenient. No civilian population will be threatened with destruction for the crime of existing. Governor Choi stepped forward and activated another holographic display. This one showed the 3 worlds of Kepler 442, now thriving with expanded cities and growing populations. These are our homes, she said, echoing the words that had defined humanity's stand. These are our children's futures. This principle will be written into the Union Charter as the fundamental right of all beings everywhere. Dr. Park presented the final element of the new order. The Union will also establish joint research initiatives between species. No more hoarding of technology. No more using scientific advancement as a weapon against others. We will explore the universe together. As the session concluded, the former Supreme Counselor approached the human delegation. Vexithari's crystal form had brightened considerably, as if a great weight had been lifted from her. Ambassador Kim, she said formally, the Dominion wishes to be among the first to join your union. Kim smiled and extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship. Counselor, it is not our union. It belongs to all of us now. The ceremony that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Species that had been enemies for millennia signed their names to a document that promised equality, cooperation, and mutual respect. The age of conquest was ending. The age of collaboration had begun. Admiral Lee stood at the observation deck, watching alien ships depart for their home worlds. Many would return with colonists seeking new opportunities in a galaxy where expansion was no longer a zero-sum game. Do you think it will work? Asked Captain Nam, who had been promoted to admiral after his heroic actions in the battle. I think humans have a saying that applies, Lee replied. The arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. We have given the galaxy a chance to bend in the right direction. Governor Choi joined them at the observation window. The first Union colony ships launch next month, she reported. Mixed crews from 6 different species, heading for empty systems to build something new together. And if someone tries to stop them? Admiral Lee asked. Choi smiled with the same determination that had faced down impossible odds 6 months earlier. Then they will discover that the Union defends its own. All of them. Always. Dr. Park arrived carrying a data tablet with the latest reports from across the galaxy. Applications for union membership are coming in faster than we can process them. 43 species in the first week alone. The four humans stood together, looking out at stars that no longer represented a hostile galaxy determined to contain their expansion. Instead, they saw infinite possibilities for cooperation, exploration, and growth. The aliens came to our system and told us to stand down, Admiral Lee said quietly. They said we had to abandon our homes and accept limits on our dreams. And we said hell no, Governor Choi added with satisfaction. But that was not the end of the story, Ambassador Kim continued. We did not just refuse to surrender. We offered something better. We offered hope. Dr. Park activated his tablet one final time, showing population projections for the next century. In 100 years, this galaxy will have 10 times as many inhabited worlds as it does today. Beings from dozens of species will call places home that are still empty space today. Because we stood up to bullies, Captain Nam said. Because we proved that determination beats numbers, Admiral Lee added. Because we showed them that freedom is worth fighting for, Governor Choi said. Because we offered them a chance to build something better together, Ambassador Kim concluded. The four humans watched in comfortable silence as the last ships depart.